Hey guys, welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to another gun store vlog where today we are going to be talking about the NICS Denial Notification Act. If that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. That's coming up now. So news had dropped yesterday that federally licensed firearm dealers, or FFLs, such as myself, had received a memo from NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, in regards to the NICS Notification of Denial Act, which will be going into effect in October. Now, this is going to have some implications on how FFLs will be conducting background checks in the future, as well as some implications about the information that is provided to NICS on you, the customers who are purchasing firearms and completing 4473 background checks. Now, I have seen some information come out already about this, but I wanted to clarify some of the issues about this act, as I am a licensed dealer and I do deal with the NICS Instant Criminal Background Check System as a part of my daily life and routine here in my gun store. Now, I will say that this has not yet gone into effect and I have not actually dealt with this in practice, so I'm going to have some holes and questions here about how this will be implemented, but I can make a couple pretty big assertions as to what this means and how it will impact background checks moving forward. So first, let's lay some groundwork about what the background check system is and the process that you go through when you purchase a firearm, because then when we talk about the NICS Denial Notification Act, this will make a lot more sense. So first, when you go into a gun store to purchase a firearm, you're going to be completing a over-the-counter 4473 background check record. That'll be either provided to you with traditional pen and paper or on a tablet, but the questions are going to be the same. When you are finished with that form, the gun store attendant you are working with is going to put that through the NICS background check system, which is run by the FBI. They will do that in one of two ways. They will either call it in over the phone or they will submit that information electronically in the internet database. Now, to be honest, if you call it in over the phone, the person you are speaking with on the phone is just doing that. They are just inputting it into their electronic database. So either way you go, the information is being entered the same way and is going to the same place. Now, from there, your information is going to go one of two ways. Number one, if it's able to be determined through the information provided on the form electronically, or at least through an instant scan of your information, I guess through the system, they will come back with a status instantly. The status will always be one of two things. It'll either be a proceed, which means you can take the firearm, or it will be a denied, which means you cannot take the firearm. The other route it can go is the system could determine that it does not have enough information to adequately make a determination on the status of that check without human intervention, so they will call in or at least alert that a human inspector will need to look at that information and check it against records that it may have found in the FBI criminal database. You could have a common name such as John Smith, so when that information, John Smith, especially if you don't include your social security number, is run through the system, of course the database is going to return hundreds of John Smiths who may have criminal records, so the system will then be unable to determine on its own if you can or cannot own the firearm, and it'll call for the assistance of a person who can make a couple phone calls and do some research specifically on you to determine whether you can or cannot get the firearm. Now, that period of time is not a delay. That is known as either researching or further review, which means an examiner is there at that exact moment researching your status. If you've gone into a gun shop and tried to purchase a firearm and you see the attendant on hold or says, this is going to take a while and you have to go sit in a chair and get a cup of coffee and wait for 20 or 30 minutes, that is exactly what's happening. You are under further review. Now, after about 30 minutes, if a status cannot be determined, they will move you to a delay. NICS has the authority to delay a person for up to 3 days. This does not include date of paper submission, and it does not include the date of pickup of the firearm. It also does not include holidays and weekends. During that really 5-day period, NICS will take that additional time to try and come up with a status. Again, if they do come up with a status within that period, you will get either a proceed or denied, the outcomes of which are self-explanatory. Now, the other thing that could happen if NICS is unable to come up with a status within the allotted time that the law provides them, then your status will move to open. At that time, it is up to the discretion of the gun store as to whether or not they want to go ahead and transfer possession of that firearm to you. Now, legally, they can do that. There is no law prohibiting a gun store for handing over possession of that firearm as long as the NICS checks was conducted and the time frame had expired and the status was moved to open. However, that transaction will stay live for 30 days in the NICS system and will continue to be worked on by personnel at NICS, and a status can still be delivered at the time even after you take it home. So if your status moves to open, you take it home, and then your status is later denied, The ATF will contact the gun store, they will ask for your information, they will go to you and they will recover the firearm. Or if the gun store has your phone number, and typically they do because you were likely delayed in the first place, they will ask the gun store to call and ask that the firearm be returned. Now, to be fair, the information you are providing on the background check does include your name and address and social security number. If you choose to include your social security number, that is optional. It also includes your date of birth, your ethnicity, your race, where you were born, your height, your weight, and your gender, and then a series of yes/no questions. Now, the only information that's actually transposed on the background check at the time it is submitted to the FBI is your name, your social security number, if it was included, your height, your weight, your gender, and your birthday. The only thing omitted is your address, but it is on a record which does have to be maintained by the FFL at their place of business for a period of several years. Now, where we come into the NICS Denial Notification Act, I know that was a lot of background, but we're going to tie back into all of that here. Now, what the NICS Denial Notification Act is, it says the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2022 was signed into law on March 15th, 2022. Section 1101 of the Act included NICS Denial Notification Act of 2022. The Act requires the Attorney General to report background check denials to state authorities and will require the FBI Criminal Justice Information Services Division National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS, section to report all FBI NICS denied transactions to local law enforcement within 24 hours beginning October 1st, 2022. And that 24 hours is important, and we'll come back to it. The NICS section plans to implement this change on September 26, 2022. What this is effectively saying is we talked about the ways that you will get a denied status, and denied statuses can be handed out erroneously, and we've had that happen a couple times in our store. This act requires that NICS, this is an imposition on NICS, which is the FBI, not the ATF, give over the pertinent information to local law enforcement in the jurisdiction of where the background check took place. They're going to provide the FFL's information, the dealer who did the transaction, obviously so that law enforcement agency could get in touch with the gun store and ask questions, maybe identification related questions or any other type of questions that might be part of an investigation. They're also going to ask that the name and all other related information, including the address, which is the only information not provided to NICS at time of background check, also be provided to local law enforcement. Now, the problem here is they only have 24 hours to provide that information. So if a denied status is achieved, they will ask the dealer at that time to provide that information, because if a denied status is given at the time of a denial, not as a result of a delayed status, so you put it in the background check system and it immediately gets you a denied, or it's a further review and then it comes back to a denied. They know that the gun store attendant is there in front of the computer, and they will ask that gun store attendant for the information, the address, so they can immediately give it over to local law enforcement so that local law enforcement can go after the person who was denied. Why do they want to do this? Well, on top of the 4473 background check record, it does say that if you lie on the form or falsify any information, you may serve a fine up to, I believe, $250,000 and can serve up to 10 years in prison. Now, there have been very few people prosecuted on lying on the form. It was part of this initiative to be harder on gun violence and whatnot, to go after people who are going in lying on forms, trying to trick the NICS system and get firearms illegally through gun stores. That was the point of this, and that's how it passed. Now, here's the one cog here. We talked about the fact that you can be delayed on a background check. And when you're delayed, NICS has 3 to 5 days, 3 days, but 5 days total, which they can come back with the status. Now, the status that they come back with can be denied, in which case, if it is denied, they are still beholden to this law, which requires NICS to provide the address of the person who was denied to local law enforcement within 24 hours. The problem they run into is, what if the denied status comes back overnight, or on a weekend, or over a holiday where the FFL is not there and does not have access to the record, or cannot provide that record to NICS within a 24-hour window? Remember, this is no imposition on the gun dealer. The gun dealer does not have to deal within the 24-hour window. NICS has to deal within the 24-hour window. So their workaround here is, in the event of a delay status, the dealer will have to go ahead and preemptively provide the person's home address in the event that they end up getting denied, so that NICS already has the information on file and can therefore give it to local law enforcement within the 24-hour window. What this means is all people who are delayed, and remember, people who are delayed are not necessarily criminals or there's nothing wrong. It could just be that your name is John Smith And I bet that there's going to be a litany of comments down in the comment section about people who are delayed all the time, who have no issues, have no criminal records. It is a normal part of this business. We get multiple delays every day, and virtually none of them turn into denies. We've had very few denied transactions relative to the proceeds we've had since we've been in business. But now that private information will be provided. Yes, again, I will reiterate that information is already provided on the background check, which the ATF can get access to at any time that they want. But it is an extra bit of information that I know most people would like to have withheld unless it were necessary, in which case these are legal people who have no background check issues, who have no criminal records, who are purchasing the firearms legally in gun stores. But anyway, that is all I have at this point. When this gets implemented and starts being used to practice, I will have a little bit more information about how this is actually being applied, and I can come back and revisit this topic with hopefully more information about specifically what is happening. Anyway, guys, that is all I have for you on this. If you enjoyed, please let me know by hitting that like button. Please also consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell notification button so you are aware when we are posting new content. I'm going to leave you guys off with that. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.